Rocky Stallone receives a letter that reopens a wound he thought had long healed. His fiercest rival, Tommy the Machine Gunn, is on his deathbed and asking to see him one last time. What begins as a tense reunion slowly unravels into something much deeper. A chance for forgiveness, redemption, and the discovery of a secret that will change everything. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Some rivalries end in the ring. Others echo into the silence. Philadelphia was colder than Rocky remembered. The city still bore his name in whispered reverence, but it had forgotten how to speak in warmth. He stood in front of the Museum of Art again, older, heavier in soul than in body. His breath fogging up the early morning air as if the ghosts of his past were exhaling with him. There were no cameras this time, no steps to run up, no fans to lift their fists and chant his name. Just a letter, folded once, pressed inside the inner pocket of a jacket that had once known blood and victory. The name on the front, Tommy Gunn. 32 years. That's how long it had been since Rocky had seen Tommy's face. And now, he was being summoned, not to a rematch, but to a hospital. The man who once beat him senseless in an alley behind a bar, his protege turned enemy, the machine that couldn't stop swinging, was dying. Cancer, stage 4, liver, lungs, the works. And he had asked for one person before the curtain closed. Rocky. But why now? Why after everything? Why after the betrayal, the arrogance, the years of silence? It wasn't rage that burned in Rocky's chest as he reread the message delivered by a nurse named Marie. It wasn't sorrow either. It was something far more dangerous, hesitation. Because this wasn't just about Tommy. It was about everything Rocky had locked away behind silence, strength, and the stubborn belief that some wounds just heal on their own. But they don't. He turned from the museum steps, boots crunching over ice-stained concrete, and walked back into the city that had shaped him. Hard, proud, unforgiving. The streets had changed. His old neighborhood was worn thin. The gym where Mickey once barked instructions had closed 5 years ago, replaced by a discount liquor store. The punch bags were gone, but the echoes still lived in the walls. He passed the corner where Adrian used to sell birds. He passed the alley where he first shadowboxed as a kid. He passed the church where Paulie once cursed too loud at a wedding. Philly had moved on, but Rocky hadn't. He reached the hospital by noon, St. Michael's. It didn't smell like healing. It smelled like finality, bleach, plastic, fear. Marie met him in the lobby. She was younger than Rocky expected. Soft eyes, worn hands. She introduced herself quietly, as if her voice could wake the sleeping ghosts on every floor. "He's been asking for you every day this week," she said. Rocky nodded. "That bad?" Marie didn't answer, just tilted her head slightly toward the elevator. He understood. The ride to the 4th floor felt longer than any fight. Each ding of the elevator was a countdown. Not to a match, to a reckoning. Room 417. Tommy looked like a shadow of the man Rocky once knew. Tubes ran through his arms. His face was pale, almost translucent, like the rage had been sucked out of him drop by drop. The muscles that once terrified opponents were now sunken, hollowed by the unrelenting erosion of time and sickness. But when his eyes met Rocky's, there was still fire. Dimmer now, but burning. "You came," Tommy whispered. "I almost didn't. I know." They sat in silence for a full minute. Tommy coughed, wet, ragged. His breath came in shallow gusts. "Why now?" Rocky finally asked. Tommy's lips curved into a weak smile. "Because I lost the only fight that mattered." Rocky frowned. "What's that?" Tommy looked at him. "Forgiveness." Flashback. 1990. Rocky handing Tommy his first pair of custom gloves. Tommy grinning like a kid. Mickey's voice echoing in Rocky's head. "You can't save every fighter, Rock. Some gotta lose to learn." Back in the room, Rocky stared at his hands. "They said you wrote a letter." "I did. A lot of them. Threw most away. This one, Marie found it in my locker. Thought it was worth sending." "You never mailed it yourself?" "Too much pride. Too little time. They sat for another long moment, and then Tommy spoke again. I saw what you did, you know. What's that? The kids, the gym. You turned your pain into purpose. I just let mine rot. Rocky didn't respond, but inside, something shifted. Tommy pointed to the nightstand. There's a folder. Open it. Rocky pulled it open. Inside, documents, receipts, transfers, donations to Rocky's youth center over the last 5 years. Why? Rocky asked. Tommy's voice broke. Because I couldn't show up, but I could show up for someone. Another flashback. The alley behind the bar. Tommy's punch landing. Rocky hitting the ground. The world watching. Tommy walking away. Regret already blooming beneath his victory. I didn't want to die without saying something, Tommy murmured. You just did. No, not everything. Rocky stood up, unsure whether to walk away or stay. His fists clenched, not from anger, but from fear. Of opening a door he'd locked for decades. Tommy's eyes met his again. I never told anyone this, but my last fight? It wasn't real. Rocky turned. What do you mean? Tommy's lips quivered. I need you to come back tomorrow. I don't know if I'll have the strength to say it today. Rocky stared at him, and for the first time in years, he nodded. Not as a fighter, but as a man. Rocky didn't sleep that night. Not because he couldn't, because he didn't want to. The letter sat on the kitchen table like it had a pulse of its own. He had read it 5 times. Every word felt heavier with each pass. Every sentence dug deeper into memories he thought were buried. The city was quiet, too quiet. Philadelphia always had something to say, but tonight, it listened. His son Robert walked in, rubbing his eyes, still half dreaming. You're up early, Robert said. Didn't go to sleep. Robert looked at the table. That from him? Rocky nodded. Robert sat across from him. You going back? Rocky didn't answer right away. Then, yeah, I think I have to. Robert studied his father. You know, growing up, I hated him. Rocky looked up. You said he was like a brother once. Then one day he wasn't. Rocky exhaled through his nose. The kind of breath that carried memory. He was young, so was I. We didn't know how to talk without fists back then. Robert chuckled. You still don't. Rocky almost smiled. Almost. Flashback. 1990. Tommy in the ring, training with Rocky. They're laughing, light, sharp, focused. Mickey's voice rings in Rocky's mind. He ain't just throwing punches, Rock. He's throwing his childhood. Back at the hospital, Marie greeted Rocky with a softer expression. He's weaker today, she said, walking him toward the room. But he's been waiting. Room 417 hadn't changed, but Rocky had. Tommy looked up as he entered, his eyes flickering. You came back, he rasped. I said I would. Tommy nodded. Then I guess I better not waste it. The silence between them wasn't empty. It was loaded. Tommy gestured to the chair. Rocky sat. You remember that fight in Atlantic City? Tommy asked. Rocky's eyes narrowed. The one you lost? Tommy coughed. Yeah, that one. Rocky nodded. That fight wasn't real. What do you mean? I threw it. Rocky blinked. You what? Tommy looked away. I was paid to lose. My last shot at glory, and I sold it. But why? Rocky's fists clenched unconsciously. I thought you wanted the title. I did, Tommy said, but not as much as I wanted revenge. Rocky stared. On who? Tommy met his eyes. You. The room fell silent. The machines beeped slowly. Outside, snow had started to fall. I thought, if I lost and word got out it was fixed, it'd take away everything people thought I was, just like I thought you took everything from me. You were the one who walked away, Rocky said, voice tight. I know, but I thought you walked away first, when I needed you to believe in me most. Rocky shook his head. You wanted the spotlight. You didn't care what it cost. Tommy laughed, a dry, sad sound. And look where it got me. He looked down at his hands, shaking, weak. These hands were once the strongest thing I had. Now I can't even hold a fork. Rocky leaned forward. I came here expecting anger, he said. Expecting you to ask for forgiveness. Tommy raised an eyebrow. Isn't that what I'm doing? Rocky shook his head. No, you already gave it. With the gym donations, with the letter. Tommy said nothing. Then Rocky added, quieter. But you're still holding something back. Tommy looked away. A long pause. Then, I never stopped watching you. Rocky looked at him, surprised. After everything, after the alley, the fights, the fall, I kept watching. The kids you trained, the speeches, that one day at the park with that boy missing an arm. You held his gloves for him, like it was nothing. Rocky sat still. You were the man I wanted to be, but I didn't know how to stop trying to beat you. Flashback. Tommy in a cheap motel room, watching a grainy news clip. Rocky hugging a student after his first amateur win. Tommy, alone, tearing up. But no one saw. Back in the hospital, Tommy's breathing grew slower. Rocky stood up, pacing. You threw the fight? To spite me? Tommy nodded. I was angry, and broke, and alone. But you knew it would ruin you. I thought I was already ruined. Rocky sat back down. What do you want from me, Tommy? Tommy looked at him, his voice a whisper. Tell me I wasn't just a mistake. Rocky didn't answer right away. He looked around the room. The IV, the heart monitor, the bruises time had left behind. He looked at Tommy, not the fighter, not the enemy, but the broken boy inside the man. You weren't. Tommy closed his eyes. For a moment, Rocky thought he had drifted off. Then, there's one more thing, yeah? I left something in the locker at the gym, the old one. The gym's closed, Tommy. Tommy opened his eyes. There's still a back door. Ask Gus, the guy who runs the shop now. He knows. What is it? Tommy smiled. If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. Rocky stared at him. I ain't good with surprises. You were never good with letting go, either. Tommy's voice dropped to a near whisper. There's one more fight you gotta finish, Rock. But it's not mine. Rocky leaned in. What are you talking about? Tommy closed his eyes again and didn't answer. It took Rocky 3 hours to find the key. Not to the gym, to the memory. He parked in front of the old building on Morris Street, once the heartbeat of 1,000 hopeful gloves, now swallowed by rust and spray paint. The liquor store that replaced the gym looked tired. The windows were barred, and a sign flickered above the door. Gus's Discount Liquors. Cash only. He stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled like a joke. The smell of stale beer and cleaning bleach hit him first, then Gus. Holy hell, the man behind the counter said, adjusting his glasses. Rocky Stallone, what are you doing in this dump? Rocky didn't smile. Need a favor. Back door still open? Gus hesitated. It's barely hanging on, but yeah. You got a reason? Rocky pulled out the letter from his jacket. Tommy's name was visible at the bottom. Gus nodded. No more questions. The back room was cold. Dust clung to every surface. The heavy bag was still there, slumped like a boxer who never got up. Faint echoes of rope skipping, gloves slapping, and Mickey yelling still seemed to cling to the brick walls. Ghosts didn't haunt this place. They trained here. In the corner, beneath an old locker marked TG, Rocky found it. A metal box, locked and taped to it, a yellowed envelope. Rocky. He opened the envelope. Inside, one photograph, one note, and one small brass key. The photo showed a much younger Tommy standing next to a boy, 10 years old, Max, grinning up at the camera. The boy had red gloves, big ones, too big for his arms. The note was handwritten. His name is Miles, my son. I never told anyone, not even him. I thought I didn't deserve to. I was afraid he'd end up like me. He's at the youth center, one of yours now. You taught him better than I ever could. That's your legacy, Rock, not the fights, the kids. This box is for him, but he'll only take it if it comes from you. Don't let the mistakes end with me. Tommy Rocky stared at the paper for a long time, then opened the box. Inside were two things. Tommy's original championship belt, faded leather, still shining in the center. A short, unmarked video cassette. He stood in silence. And for the first time in years, he cried. Not for Tommy, not for the gym, but for the boy in the photo. Back at the youth center, the afternoon buzzed with noise. Pads being punched, ropes snapping on concrete, kids laughing in between rounds. Robert was managing the ring today, helping one of the new kids wrap his wrists. Rocky walked in, the box in his arms. Robert raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "History," Rocky said. Robert followed him to the back office. Rocky placed the box on the desk and pulled out the photo. "You recognize him?" Robert took the photo. "Yeah, that's Miles, new kid. Good hands. Quiet though, doesn't say much." Rocky nodded. "He's got Tommy's blood." Robert looked up. "Tommy had a son?" Rocky sat down. Didn't tell anyone, but he watched him from a distance. Donated anonymously. Let me train him without even knowing. Robert sat across from him. "What are you gonna do?" But Rocky didn't answer, not immediately, because a part of him wanted to walk away again. It'd be easier to drop the box and never speak of Tommy again. Let the boy grow without that shadow. But that wasn't the lesson. That was fear, pride, and pride had already taken too much. That night, Rocky waited until the gym was empty. The only sound was the hum of fluorescent lights and the echo of past fights in his ears. He held the VHS tape in his hands. He didn't own a VCR, but Mickey did. At least, he used to. Flashback. Rocky, barely 25, sitting in Mickey's basement. Old tapes playing. Sugar Ray Leonard, Ali, Dempsey. Mickey pacing behind him, muttering, "You study the man, not just the match. The soul, Rock. Look for the soul." Robert helped him set up the dusty old player from the storage room. The picture on the screen was grainy, static. Then, Tommy. Younger than in the hospital. Still weathered, still worn. He looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And I hate that I wasn't brave enough to say it to your face, Rock. But you deserved better than what I gave you. You gave me everything, a shot, a future, a name. I ruined it, and I ruined us. But I couldn't die without trying to put something back in the world. That boy, he's better than me. Don't tell him I was a hero. Don't even tell him I was his dad. Just tell him how to fight without losing himself. You were my last coach, Rock. Finish the job." The screen went black. Robert exhaled slowly. Damn. Rocky didn't speak. He stood, walked to the ring, stared at it for a long time, then turned to his son. "Get Miles." Robert hesitated. "You gonna tell him everything?" Rocky looked back at the empty ring. "No." "Why not?" Rocky turned to him. Soft voice, steel in his eyes. "Because he deserves to fight his own fight. But this time, I'll be in his corner." The first time Rocky saw Miles throw a punch, he knew. It wasn't the speed. It wasn't the power. It was the hesitation, the fraction of a second before the follow-through, like his heart and hands weren't fully in sync. That was Tommy's shadow. It lived in the pause. Miles stood in the ring, sweat running down his arms, chest heaving. He was fast, sharper now, more focused, but still too careful, like every movement had to be perfect, like he was fighting against the air, not with it. Rocky leaned on the ropes. "Again," he said. Miles nodded and went through the combo. Left, left, right hook, step, pivot, jab. "Better," Rocky murmured. "But don't think so much." Miles paused. "Hard not to." "Why?" Miles hesitated. "I don't know." Rocky stepped into the ring. "Then let's find out." They sparred, slowly at first, gloves tapping, feet circling. Then a quick hook from Rocky caught Miles off guard. The boy staggered. Rocky lowered his gloves. "You okay?" Miles shook it off. "Yeah." Rocky nodded. "Good. Now hit me like you mean it." Miles hesitated. Rocky narrowed his eyes. "What's stopping you?" Miles dropped his gloves. "My father." Silence. Rocky blinked. "What about him?" Miles looked away. "I don't know who he was, but I feel like I'm fighting him every time I swing. Like I'm trying not to become him." Rocky took a deep breath. "Then maybe it's time you knew the truth." They sat on the bench by the back wall. No ring lights, no gloves. Just two people and the truth between them. His name was Tommy, Rocky began. He was a fighter, strong, angry, brave, broken. Miles didn't speak. He made mistakes, big ones, but he tried to fix them. He gave up everything so you could be better than he was. Miles looked at him. Was he my dad? Rocky nodded. He was, but he didn't want you to be like him. He wanted you to be like you. Miles didn't cry, but his hands trembled. He ever say that? Rocky pulled the photo from his pocket, handed it to him. The boy looked at the image. I remember that day. He whispered, I thought he was just some guy from the gym. He gave me gloves. Rocky smiled. He was giving you more than that. That night, Miles didn't go home. He stayed at the gym, trained past midnight, hit the bag until his knuckles swelled. Not from rage, from release. The next morning, Marie called. Tommy was gone. No ceremony, no visitors, no family. Just a quiet breath that left and didn't return. Rocky sat in the hospital room alone, stared at the empty bed. He placed the championship belt on the chair and whispered, You threw your last punch, kid. But this one lands. He turned to leave, but paused, then pulled the final envelope from his pocket, tucked it under the pillow. It read, To Miles, from the man who loved you his whole life and only found the courage at the end. 2 weeks later, the youth center buzzed with energy. It was fight night, local tournament, nothing big. But to these kids, it was everything. Rocky stood in the corner of the ring, towel around his neck, eyes fixed on Miles. The bell rang. Round 1. Miles moved like a different fighter. He was still cautious, but not afraid. He led with his heart, and for the first time, the hesitation was gone. The fight went the distance. Split decision. Miles won. The crowd cheered. But Miles didn't celebrate. He climbed through the ropes, walked straight to Rocky, and hugged him. Tight. Silent. No words. Just breath. After the match, they walked together down the sidewalk in the cool night air. Miles carried his small trophy under his arm. Rocky held nothing. I saw something in you, Rocky said. Even before I knew. Miles looked at him. I'm still figuring it out. You will. They reached the bottom of the museum steps. The famous ones. Miles looked up. You ever run these? Rocky smirked. Once or twice. You want a race? Rocky raised an eyebrow. You sure you're ready for that? Miles grinned. I got good shoes. They took off. Slow at first, then faster. And for the first time in years, Rocky ran without weight. At the top, they stopped, out of breath. Miles looked out over the city. You miss it? He asked. Rocky smiled. Not anymore. Inside the gym. The photo of Tommy and Miles now framed on the wall. Next to it, a quote painted above the ring. The fight isn't over when the bell rings. It's over when you choose who you want to become. Thank you so much for watching. Your time means everything to us, and we hope this story moved you as much as it moved us. If it did, please consider leaving a comment, sharing the video, and subscribing to the channel, because powerful stories deserve to be heard. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and never underestimate the impact of one small act of courage.